gosh, this is one of the most beautiful sights that I have ever been privileged to see. God bless America. Isn't that what it's all about? Well, let me tell you, yes, my name is Candace Salima, but I am a daughter, I am an aunt, I am a wife, and I am a niece. But more than anything, at this moment, at this time in the history of this great nation, I am a U.S. patriot who will stand for the U.S. Constitution until my death. I'm here to talk to you about what happens when freedom is gone. As was mentioned, my father was a survivor of a labor camp in Holland, and it wasn't pretty. He barely made it out of there. They actually let him out because he was dying, and they said he wasn't going to survive. They called his Dutch grandmother, and my father, by the way, was half German, called his Dutch grandmother and said, "We're going to bring him your grandson. He's dying." And she said, "Don't bring that filthy kraut anywhere near me." Her own blood. Now, remember this. The countries of Europe are completely intertwined. There is no pure French, there's no pure German, there's no pure Dutch, there's no pure anything. After World War II ended, everyone with a shred of German blood was thrown in a labor camp. Now tell me, did you learn that in your history books? Here's what happens when your nation gives up its right to protect itself. In Holland, on May 10th, 1940, the Germans invaded. They fell within 8 hours. It took 8 hours for Germany to take over the entire nation. At that point, my father lived on the top floor of a tenement building, right in the center of Amsterdam. Now stop and think. The Germans come in, it's 1940, they've already invaded Poland, and at this point, they're already struggling a little bit because this is just at the end of the Great Depression. It wasn't all the way over in Holland yet. The Germans came in and took all the food, all the gas, all the petrols, what they called it, everything. You couldn't cross the street without a permit from the Nazis. Guess where the Nazi office was? Across the street, that's right. My grandmother was given a coupon for 1 loaf of bread a month, a coupon for a pint of milk a month, and a coupon for a dozen eggs if she could get them. Now, they didn't have supermarkets then. They had a meat store, they had a dairy store, they had a bread store. So if you stood in line for hours on end to get your loaf of bread, you were without your milk, you were without your eggs. There was no way to get food. By the time the war ended, there was no freedom anywhere in German-occupied nations. If they said something wrong, dead. The Dutch underground, such as it was, would try to fight back, but the second they would attack a convoy or they would blow up a truck or they would try to blow up an office, the Germans would pile in a big truck, they'd go to a random neighborhood in Holland, they'd haul out all the men and all the boys, shoot them dead, get in their truck and go back, and left the women and the daughters to clean it up, to mourn the loss of their husbands, their fathers, and their sons. When I stand up here and I tell you we cannot allow Washington, D.C. to do what they are trying to do, I come at it from a heart, from the daughter of a man who lost everything. At the end of the war, he couldn't even eat. They tried to give him food in Switzerland and he puked it all up. It took 6 weeks before he could even keep down a small amount of soup. By that point, they were ordered repatriated to their countries. The Dutch threw him in a labor camp for 18 months, like I said. Freedom lost is the toughest thing ever to find. Realize that the U.S. Constitution is the most powerful, pure form of government in the history of all the millennia of every nation in this world. There is nothing like the U.S. Constitution. In this state, we know more about what America really is than in any other state in the Union. And yes, I'm including Texas. We are Utah. We know what it means to be Americans. We know the great cost. We know that freedom must be preserved. We know that if freedom is lost in the United States of America, it will be lost forever from the world. It is up to me and it is up to you to make certain that this cannot happen. In 2008, before Barack Obama took office the first time, Columbia versus Heller, the US Supreme Court said there was no weapon that had been created in the United States of America that was not covered by the Second Amendment of the US Constitution. Period. So we had the Second Amendment, we had the US Constitution, we had the Bill of Rights, and now we've got SCOTUS backing us up. You know what? Obama doesn't have a leg to stand on.
That's right.
Period. And you know what? He learned it on Friday. Happy sequestration, second day. You know what? Let me just...
We need you out there, Mia.
This is what we have. We have a nation that is being run by fear over the slowing down of the increase of spending in the future. Everybody's running around saying the sky's falling over that. This is how bad it has gotten. But let me tell you this, patriots such as yourselves, those who are able to critically think, those who are able to study their own history and come up with their own conclusions, will always win out against the mindless obedience to a dictator. Do I hope we are not going to descend into another civil war? Yes. But if they push us, they're going to get it. Here's the thing though. I want us to not descend into another civil war. I want them to know that if they keep pushing, that's what they're going to get. What I want is I want the 535 men and women sitting on the Hill in Washington, D.C. to do their jobs. We have a balance of power we're supposed to have. We have a balance of power, balance of checks and balances set up by the U.S. Constitution, by the Founding Fathers, to prevent exactly what is going on over there. It is up to us. We have 2 years. We have to replace those people who cannot stand up and do their constitutional duty. Period. They can no longer be allowed to serve the people in the U.S. Congress. We cannot send any more people like, oh, the beauty of Dianne Feinstein, give up your weapons. The bad guys will give up their weapons because it's human nature. How do you get so stupid? Oh my gosh. I've decided liberalism is a disease that eats away at the brain until you can no longer make sense. And as proof, I give you nearly 535 people in Washington, D.C. Oh, let's not. California's lost. It cannot be saved. I'm convinced of it. We have Senator Mike Lee, who has used the U.S. Constitution as his guidebook. We have a handful of people. I'll tell you who one of my new favorite congressmen is, Trey Gowdy. Love that guy. When he took on Holder, I almost stood up and cheered. It was awesome. But understand, freedom lost, it takes blood to get it back. So we can't lose it. We cannot lose this battle. We must stand up. We must make it very clear to Washington, D.C., if they push us, they'll pay. So don't push us. My father spent, he and my mother married when I was 17, okay? He is what I call the father of my heart. I adore this man. I wish he had been my physical, biological father, the best man ever. And he taught his children, number one, that freedom is precious, this is what I've been talking about, and we cannot let it fail. Number two, this almost seems ridiculous to say now, he always said, kids, remember, Adolf Hitler was elected. Well, here we are, so. Twice. So So, I tried really hard to warn as many people as I could. He did that over there. Am I saying Barack Obama's going to round us up? I used to think not, but now I don't know. Anyway, let him try. He also taught us to defend and stand for the U.S. Constitution, even if it cost us our lives. He said, without it, the world is lost, and I believe that with my whole heart. He absolutely made me promise on his deathbed that I would pick up the torch of liberty that he had carried throughout his life and carry it throughout America so that all of America can understand that we can't lose this battle. Freedom is the prize, liberty the light, and we must 100% make sure it does not fall. My ancestors on my mother's side came to America in the 1500s. There's not a war, there's not a battle, there's not anything that has happened in this nation that my ancestors have not played a part in. And as I've said before, and many of you have heard me say before, I am not going to die, go to the other side and face the founding fathers and my father and my ancestors and say, gosh, I was too tired, it was too hard, I couldn't do it. They bled, they died. I am going to ask you to make certain that you are actively engaged with your legislators. Make sure you're calling them and making your voice known. Make sure they understand that these two gun bills that are going through the legislature right now must be passed. And oh my gosh, put the pressure on the governor. I don't know what his problem is.
We do.
Representative Ivory has got some great land bills going through that must go through and be signed. We've got financial readiness that's up and running. We've got a lot of amazing things here in Utah that we should be leading out on. We should not be following because Utahns are not followers. We lead, we must lead. And so I close with this. Remember what the purpose of the United States of America is, and that is to be the beacon of light and freedom to the world. Promise me that you will keep up the fight. Promise me that when you hear the chant of USA, you don't think it's racist. You guys remember why the bald eagle was chosen.
That's an omen.
That is an omen. You can call it an omen, I call it a sign from heaven.
Same thing.
Same deal. You know what? Remember the American spirit, the very essence of the American spirit is born within each one of us as we come into this world. It is that spirit that never dies. It is that spirit that doesn't give up. It's that spirit that keeps going when things get tough. Well, things are tough. They're going to get tougher. Don't give up. God bless America, and God bless each one of you.